Well, welcome to the show, Alex Orr, sole founder of JAGO Jackets. How are we doing today, Alex?
Very well, Pete. Great to be on the show. Thank you very much for having me. And hello to all your listeners.
Hey, and thanks for jumping on. Well, Alex, please, for the uninitiated, introduce yourself to the show and how do you best describe JAGO Jackets?
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm Alex Orr, as you said. I'm founder of functional menswear brand JAGO, whose sort of main focus is providing versatile clothing for the city and beyond. I originally started the brand back in 2016, I think. Whilst I was at university, studying something totally unrelated. I studied biotechnology. Before I then put the brand kind of on ice, because I tried launching a new sort of outdoor clothing brand with one of JAGO's customers, Mr. Bear Grylls, which was quite an adventure, and for various kind of amicable but unfortunate reasons that sort of never took off. But I felt I had some really good momentum with JAGO before that, and basically just couldn't fight the itch to pick it back up and give it another crack and build on the momentum. And we've had a very supportive and encouraging customer base from round one, if you will, to often still reaching out to me. So I've basically caved, and here we are again, been busying away, and JAGO is relaunching this week, which is very exciting.
Interesting. And so talk to me about the initial steps when you first got the brand off and running, and like where are the garments made and how did you raise the capital to get it off the ground?
So I mean, it was that first stage. I guess it was almost a different thing altogether. But it was whilst I was at uni, I managed to pull together. I somehow managed to persuade some people to loan me a little bit of money, but sort of talking 10 grand. It was all very small fry. And I was just bootstrapping everything, which is ultimately kind of what I'm doing again now. But and there, that the products were made in the UK, handmade in England, and it was all very kind of super premium 500 quid jackets made of this amazing fabric called Ventar, which some of your listeners I'm sure will know about. But that's sort of how it was done originally, and then now, many years on, I guess I'm sort of funding it with what was the sort of proceeds that were left over from JAGO One, as well as just any savings I've made in the meantime.
And so JAGO One was a success, though. I mean, it sold
Yeah,
and then it got an audience, and obviously Bear Grylls took notice.
it was a great success. I think in that, it wasn't, I wasn't selling millions or anything, but I was selling enough to feel like, considering it was all organic and early days, I was getting good traction. But at the time, I was literally just graduated when Bear and I got talking, and he is without doubt the world's most famous adventurer. So it was just sort of a no-brainer at the time, to do that. And we even discussed making it, kind of bringing him board onto JAGO for a bit, and we were just trying to be as creative as possible to work out the best way to do it. But that didn't happen. So yeah, and that's sort of now JAGO's back to just trying to be this versatile clothing for every day and beyond. We call it for life's adventure, is what kind of we're trying to create clothing for. It's all encompassing, and I guess it comes from a philosophy on life, really, that at JAGO we want to embrace adventure in its broadest sense, far beyond kind of outdoor adventure only, and living for variety and spontaneity. So we want gear that's can take us from what we call, I guess, work to wild, allowing us to have fewer, better, longer lasting and more sustainable pieces.
Right. And just before we get on to the relaunch, I am interested about the Bear Grylls section, because it does feel like there was a chance you wanted to seize the opportunity and maybe catapult the brand further, or establish a new brand and work along with Bear, and that would have gone off in a huge different direction for you. But then, was it frustrating? Was there a lot of time that passed, and eventually was there things that just couldn't work out? I mean, you don't want to go into the minutiae, I understand, but there must have been a long spell where you were kind of really pulling your hair out and trying to get this off the ground. No?
Yeah, so it was first of all, it was an amazing experience, and I sort of relished the opportunity to have it. But like you sort of say, going from Jago, where there was some good momentum, and I felt things were starting to get some decent traction, and kind of start potentially, snowballing a bit, to then put that down to essentially start from scratch and ideate new ways into how we could essentially, best build a Bear Grylls kind of clothing brand. That was, I guess, a little frustrating, but also an awesome thing to do. The reason why it ultimately didn't work was COVID. Once again, it hit, and you just
really?
Just timings became difficult. Communication of people, we were looking for a bit of investment, and people suddenly were just, battening down the hatches, from a kind of lending perspective as well. So there was just all sorts of things that went against us, and various new contracts coming in, and Bear's kind of TV side, which is obviously his bread and butter, his media, and just sort of meant that timings didn't necessarily work out quite how we'd both wanted or kind of envisioned when we were starting off. So we just decided that actually the timing wasn't probably right this time around.
That's a shame. Well, I mean, not many brands survived, let alone started up during those times. And I guess even if you didn't start something up with Bear or intend to at that time, keeping Jago going throughout the pandemic years would have also been a real challenge, right?
Yeah, I think so. But there's always the what if, and I always think back to had I just focused 100% on that and given it my all, where it could have been. And I do think there's some, and I'm still excited by it now, and I don't think it's too late as such. I think the kind of Jago brand, which is that very versatile piece, for a much more flexible work play world that so many of us now kind of live in the lifestyles we lead, is actually really kind of that whole world has been accelerated by COVID, with people working from home a bit more and being more flexible. So I think from that perspective, it kind of COVID suits, or just so Jago suits the kind of shift in perspective of how people live a bit, especially with, I mean, when you think about when we couldn't travel, people started to do a bit more micro ventures at home, and I think Jago and the kind of functionality of the product, whilst being a nice, more everyday style and things you feel good and look good in, having that kind of performance and functionality for your weekend adventures or weekend warrior stuff is actually kind of perfect. So COVID, in some sense, I think has probably been quite good for the brand.
Yeah, it's true. I guess people started their own mini home adventures, whether it's renovating their basement or turning their garage into a man cave. You could have launched like man cave clothing or something.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Bear could have got on board with that, but there would have been, well, certainly would raise a few eyebrows.
Yeah. It sounds like the right sort of verbiage for Bear.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't already got his own line, or maybe he has now. And take this within the spirit that's intended, Alex, that he perhaps hadn't collaborated before with maybe a household name in order to get a line going, or household names would have approached him and said, "Look, come on board and put your name to this, and we'll make a packet together."
Yeah. I think things like that had happened, with various outdoor brands, in the past, but we were just looking, I think, at ways of doing it a bit more, to be properly immersed in it rather than sort of licensing out the brand. But I feel that that's ultimately kind of where the angle we were coming at it from, to kind of be owning the business rather than licensing it.
Interesting. So talk about the relaunch now. So what is new about Jago 2 as opposed to Jago 1?
Yeah, so I think with all this time that's passed since Jago one, I mean, obviously I mentioned with COVID, that was a long time ago. So actually it's been a while since the Bear Grylls sort of adventure. And actually in that meantime, I've ended up doing other things. I've sort of become a qualified accountant. But with all that time, I've had a lot of time to think about the brand, and ultimately I've just had, to answer your question, being able to get much more focused on resetting the brand and its purpose and kind of getting more clarity on that. And I think that has been more around the performance side and the versatility side. I think we were a bit, JAGO 1 was a bit more, maybe kind of had a slightly more alpine and mountainous heritage to it. And now I think we have kind of brought the versatility, try to bring the kind of versatility piece much to a more urban look and much more urban flexibility, because beforehand we were saying we were versatile, but I think to be truly versatile, you want to be able to wear it every day, and it's integrate into your kind of daily life. And so our focus has been on kind of enhancing and sort of embracing that style whilst maintaining kind of performance. So that's been the key.
And how many products are we, sorry to run over you, Alex, how many products and ranges are we releasing now?
So we're actually just relaunching with one piece this week, which is a men's cotton insulated gilet, and it is using British fabric from British Millerain, which is, I think, one of the oldest mills in the country. Were established in 1880 or something, so they've got a real heritage to them. But it's, as I say, it's an insulated gilet, and like most gilets and puffers, you'd know, they're all that kind of synthetic fabric, whereas this is cotton, so it's incredibly soft, but ripstop, so kind of comes with great durability. And then the insulation and linings all fully recycled. Yeah, and then as part of the relaunch, so we had a kind of self-made timeline and deadline, which was to launch in time sort of nowish for Christmas. Then we found out that actually the gilets aren't going to be ready till just after Christmas. So not wanting to deviate from the timeline, we've kind of come up with a creative plan B. And that was it's been inspired by, I don't know if you know the brand Away Travel. They make suitcases. They're sort of a bit of a sort of rock star startup brand in the States with huge funding and massive valuations. But what they did is they created a coffee table book, which is exactly what we've done too. So as part of the relaunch going live this week, we've come up with a book called A Life of Adventure, where we've interviewed 30 odd, 25 to 30 amazing men and women from all walks of life, all doing incredibly cool and adventurous things. And the idea is to kind of give people something tangible. They can go onto the website in the next few days and pre-order the gilet just for the price of the gilet, and then we're going to send out these nice limited edition hardback coffee table books that you will receive now in time for Christmas. Yeah, so you get something.
So what are they, how do you do the books then? Are they made to order these books? So like for you personally, if I ordered the gilet, or are you kind of sitting on a stock of about 200 there? Like
we're sitting on a stock
in the stockroom
of the books. Right. Yeah, so a lot of books. So fingers crossed. So
nice, but that gives people a nice little sweetener, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And like nice, it's been such a fun adventure to interview these people. Like, I mean, the one you've got on the screen now, the guy at the front, Jeff Mackley, he sort of calls himself a storm chaser, and he'll rappel down into actively erupting volcanoes, and it's just absolutely crazy. And then there's other people like David Yarrow, world famous sort of fine art wildlife photographer. Lots of entrepreneurs, fans of Bremont watches and Rafa, all sorts of. The thing is, as I said earlier, JAGO's kind of view on adventure is seeing it and embracing it in its broadest of senses, and we want life's adventure to be about variety, and so we wanted to look beyond just that kind of outdoor adventure spirit, faster, higher, kind of stronger, that kind of stuff. That's not just what we're about. We're about kind of inspiring it in any nature, basically.
Nice. Oh, these guys, is there going to be like a launch party where all of these 30 people could be in the same room? Because the amount of women you would get to this party, right? I mean, like, for example, they've got good old-fashioned working titles. Like, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm a graphic designer. Well, that could mean 100 different things, right? I mean, design what kind of graphics, typography, websites, anyway, and none of it's very interesting. Whereas if you're a bomb disposable expert and you just give that line to a girl over a couple of Negronis, that's it. You're
job
in.
done.
No problemo. No problemo. I mean, this is the book for the alpha males. I love it.
No,
I need to get
be
my hands on one
cool.
of these.
Unfortunately,
Cool.
no dinner this time round, but maybe if it's a wild success, I can try and convince them all to get together.
Yeah,
we've got some pretty cool.
They should at least be in a WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, please. Sorry, I know it's not completely male dominated.
No, you got some. So we got this girl Celia Fernandez. She's a Red Bull cliff diver and stunt woman. She's epic.
Nice.
A free diver, Jenna Tanner. Just like all sorts of cool people that just basically are living lives that we all want to live. So we want to share their stories in the hope that inspires you to get out and kind of just live more adventurously and view the world for a more adventurous lens.
I like that, and it's so in keeping with the brand as well, of basically getting off your butt and doing something outside and enjoying the world outdoors. I don't think you've got a single interview of a podcaster in there, I bet.
Well, you'd be surprised. There is one.
Oh, really?
An adventure podcaster, yeah. But Pete, I have to say,
he's got to be like a rock climbing podcaster or something.
Yeah, he interviews adventurers.
Okay, much better. Oh, cool.
So,
well, look,
you guessed it.
Look, I guess it's a decent sidebar to the product not coming out in time, but I mean it's still going to be in time for people on New Year's, and January is a cold as balls month, and so is February and March. Just having this conversation with my girlfriend the other day about how people slide into November and December and think, oh, that's it, we'll creep up to Christmas and that's as cold as it gets. In England especially, I mean the real bitter months like February and March, when you think you're all done with winter and you should be in spring already. That's when you get the blizzards and the weird storm names that come from Europe.
Exactly.
So I mean you're not late to the party at all just by having this out a few weeks later.
No, well, that's kind of, and I think with the gilet, it's it is an all year round piece, that sort of light layering that you can layer or just have as the outer. So,
and I see it a lot of the time.
Versatility.
I see it a lot of the time at smart events. Like a friend of mine was at a wedding the other day. It was cold as balls, but he didn't want to have like an overcoat. It was an outdoor wedding. He didn't want to have like a huge bridge coat, sitting down watching a wedding. So he still had his suit on and his gilet underneath the suit, and that complemented it well.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the true versatility from work to wild, as we say.
That's right. So, Alex, have we got any plans for any kind of pop-ups or concessions? Is there any bricks and mortar in the pipeline?
Nothing as such in the foreseeable future over the sort of next few months. Very much going to be focused online on our website, jagojackets.com. But with time, it's definitely something we look into. And I think with this sort of, from a brand perspective, Jago literally wants to just bring a bit of fun and adventurous spirit and mischievous spirit back into daily life, and to bring our followers on that journey. I think brightening up spirits is something that we all could do a bit more of, or have a bit more in our lives. So to best achieve that, I mean, you want to create these physical spaces that people can come to and kind of get immersed in. So with time, it's definitely something we look into, but with one gilet, I think we might struggle to fill out a store at the moment. So
sure,
we'll do our best to kind of create that world digitally at the moment.
And talking about digitally, where can people find you on the socials? Do you like to hang out anywhere in particular?
Mainly Instagram, and also our handle would be at JAGO Jackets. It's JAGO, and then also obviously our website, jagojackets.com.
Cool. And did you have to put all this together yourself, the website?
Yeah, it's been a kind of crazy journey. I mean, I've had an amazing help from a kind of design agency with regards to kind of pattern making and CADs. I mean, the design itself has all been me, but actually kind of turning it into something that can be followed by a factory has been. I've definitely needed help there, but everything else, it's just one-man band, which is quite the adventure in itself. So
yeah, man. Well, that's really why I like having people like you on the show, Alex. It's, people that are making a go of it. They've got an idea and they're throwing things behind it. And it's, I applaud the entrepreneurial spirit in general, and especially when the product's good and made in Britain. So the website, once again, jagojackets.com, but we'll leave all the links over on the show notes at menswearstyle.co.uk. In the meantime, Alex, thanks for coming on.
Pete, thank you very much for having me. It's been great to be on and great chatting.